On va attaquer en direct pour le temps du choix. Le temps du choix, tout d'abord, donc je vous invite à les applaudir. Eric, Georges, merci et bravo. Merci de nous avoir inspirés une nouvelle fois, ici en plus dans cette abbaye. Merci à toute l'équipe des Planet Workshop de nous avoir permis d'y voir plus clair pendant ces 2 jours. Merci à vous, Planet Workers, d'être venus échanger vos bonnes idées, vos expériences du Bangladesh, d'Estonie, d'Inde, du Japon, du Niger ou encore de la Chine. Alors, à vous de participer, je veux vous entendre. Avez-vous passé une bonne Global Conférence? J'entends rien. Qui se sent bien? Levez la main. Qui porte l'énergie du pour? Non? Qui a envie d'agir? Qui peut agir? Voilà, nous sommes tous concernés et donc il est temps de faire des choix. Pour cette closing cérémonie, nous avons d'ailleurs des personnes de choix. Je vous demande d'accueillir Madame Najwa Ardouini El Atfani, présidente du club du XXIe siècle. Et Monsieur Rainer Nolvac, fondateur de Stigo Bike. C'est un scooter électrique magnifique, mais également de Let's Do It. Et nous avons un invité surprise qui est Janez Potočnik, DG Environnement, que j'ai eu la chance de rencontrer à la Commission européenne à Bruxelles il y a 10 jours. Et nous aurons 10 minutes d'interview dans un instant où je demanderai à l'équipe de lancer le film. Donc une petite synthèse pour le temps du choix. Je vais commencer bien sûr avec des mots que vous avez cités, que vous avez entendus, comme le bien commun, la corruption, la maison brûle, la paix, la bienveillance, la peur, l'amour, la culpabilité, le contrat social et moral, la confiance, le déni de démocratie, lucidité, donner du sens, engagement. Si vous regardez bien, tous ces mots font appel à nos émotions, c'est-à-dire à des sentiments les plus profonds, les plus ancrés en chacun de nous. Alors comment passer du choix aux actions? Par nos choix, nous influençons le monde. Par nos choix, nous influençons notre pays, nous influençons notre famille, nos voisins, notre bien-être. Tout l'écosystème que nous représentons à l'échelle de l'infiniment petit ou de l'infiniment grand. Je pense qu'il y a 2 choses universelles où nous n'avons pas le choix. La première, le choix du sexe de son enfant. La seconde, inverser la courbe du temps, ne serait-ce qu'une seconde. Et le temps, nous n'en avons plus. Un paradoxe de dire ça dans cette abbaye de Fontevraud qui abrite 9 siècles d'histoire. Alors le temps du choix ou le choix du temps? Lequel? Celui d'un mandat politique ou regarder un arbre pousser? Aujourd'hui, les modèles, le système ne sont plus durables. Quelle société voulons-nous? Une société soutenable? Alors oui, on réfléchit ici pendant 2 jours, on a le choix, on a encore le choix, mais certains sur cette planète ne l'ont pas et ne l'ont jamais eu. Le choix de manger ou le choix de boire? Je finirai avec Gérard, qui est là-bas dans la salle. Gérard, qui est né au Burundi et qui est le personnage principal d'un film de Thibaut Dufour, Le Mur du Son, que vous avez sans doute vu hier soir. Gérard a un projet, c'est sortir un savon aux vertus répulsives pour les moustiques, et donc en finir avec le paludisme, la première cause de mortalité au monde avant le sida. Et si demain, toutes les populations avaient ce choix de prendre le bon savon pour se protéger? Alors faire le choix, c'est faire la différence, c'est passer du solitaire au solidaire. Et je vais reboucler cette closing cérémonie avec une citation de Monsieur Bailly en opening cérémonie. C'est la phrase de Saint-Exupéry dans Le Petit Prince. L'essentiel est invisible à nos yeux. Let's do it. Et maintenant, on peut lancer l'interview de Monsieur Janez Potočnik depuis la Commission européenne. Merci beaucoup. Pleased to meet you.
Hi.
Thank you to welcome me in at Berlaymont here at the European Commission. First of all, from your perspective, why is it now time to make a choice?
Yeah, first, I think because it's becoming more and more obvious that us humans, with our activity, are causing unbalancing the planet. And I think that it's becoming obvious. And there are reasons which you can basically, arguments which you can develop from the environmental side, but there are also pretty much clear economic arguments through which you would come to the same conclusion that we have to change. If I start with environmental reasons, you have probably heard that we will be 9 billion between the mid of the century. Currently we are 7 billion. Which means that in just one generation on the planet, it will be additionally more people, 2 billion, than it was the total amount of population at the beginning of the 20th century, when it was 1.5 billion.
That's it.
It means more than 200,000 per day, which is, in less than 1 year, Germany, the biggest European country, or if you want, my country, which is not among the biggest, in 9 days and 6 hours. So that's how fast it's going. We are also assuming that we will have 3 additional billion people who are today living in poverty moving to the middle class consumption till 2030, which is around the corner. Yet already today many of the resources are used in a way which is unsustainable. So if we will continue business as usual, we would need approximately 3 times more resources till 2050 than we are using today. We would need approximately 70% more of food, feed and fiber than we are using today. And till 2030 we would be approximately 40% short of drinking water. That's the situation. Yeah. Yet already today 60% of our ecosystems which are underpinning those resources are basically used in unsustainable way, degraded. And that's why coming to the conclusion that we have to change the way we produce, the way we consume, the way we actually live, it's an easy conclusion. That was recognized also in Rio de Janeiro 2 years ago when we met again on this Earth conference. But if you want additional arguments from the economic side, because these arguments should be also good enough for economic reasoning, but if you want additional arguments from the European point of view in particular, why it's important to change the way we produce and consume, there are basically 4 which are for me the most important. The first is that we are locked into intensive use of production. So industrial revolution started in Europe and we consume yearly 15 tons of various resources per capita. 5 tons of that it's basically waste, and half of that it's landfilled and means lost forever. The second reason is that the resource prices after the whole century of decline started to grow. We call it a hockey stick, 300% from 1999 to 2011. 85% of European companies are expecting that the prices of resources will be increasing in the next 5 years. The third argument is that already today, in the biggest European economy, which is not the cheapest, German economy, you can find out that you can connect 43% of the cost to the use of resources, only 18% to the labor cost. And yet we only talk about labor cost and we don't talk about total factor productivity cost or resource productivity cost. And finally, Europe is extremely import dependent on the many of the resources. We import more than 60% of the energy. If you took the periodic system, half of the elements which we are building in our technologically advanced products are imported. And the conclusion that we should produce the same products by using less energy, less water, less raw materials, produce the products which could be reused, recycled, makes economic sense. And that's why also you could come to the same conclusion that we have to change. We have no alternative to that.
We need to change.
Yeah.
So how do we go from choices to actions?
Yeah, that's of course the most important question. I think it is important to recognize that, of course, market, which is a distribution mechanism which we know and for which we currently have no real alternative, will stay with us, will be an important factor. That's why we need to absolutely focus on how we would change some of the market failures which are currently existing. For example, the prices on the market are not really showing the real scarcity of the resources. Or, for example, rewards which are given to one of productive factors, to the capital, are higher than to the other production factors. Or our CEOs in various factories are rewarded basically very much on the basis of short-term results, not on the basis of long-term results. All those things which are influencing on our decision-making are actually leading us into the wrong direction. That's why incentives like prices, taxes, subsidies, and so on would need to be changed. And these are the things on which we have to actively work. So it is market incentives, market mechanisms. I am a believer into innovation because human mind is without limits. But if you want the proper innovation, you need proper regulation which sends the innovation potential into the right direction. Companies need predictability. They need to know where is the area where we would like to go. And this predictability for them, it's necessary if they want to invest into the future which we would like to develop. Then a lot depends from the very moment how you design the product. Because if you design the product that you cannot reuse it, recycle it, then of course at the end of the day you will not reuse it and recycle it. And with the whole design of the product, you already decide on the destiny of where the product will end up when it will finish its use. Then a lot can be done also by informing the people. We are consumers, we are enormous power if we have possibility to choose. But the fact is that today approximately half of our citizens are saying that they do not trust anymore the eco-labels because we have around 400 eco-labels currently globally. And of course, if you don't have any information on the basis you can choose, it's difficult for you to choose. So information, informing, education, all those things which are connected to the consumers are important. And finally, there are also important things which are connected to the business models. So it's not important for us that we owe the things if we use them. So we can lease them, we can share them, and although all those types of new models will actually also have to be more present than currently. So integration of concerns which I mentioned from the environmental point of view into other policies are of fundamental importance. So if you do that, then you basically have done really a lot for policy making, but it's a complex story. You need to have a holistic approach and nothing like taking all and every decision which is leading us in this direction with those things in mind will simply not bring us there.
But for you, is it still possible to make actions now?
Of course, it's still possible. Not it's still possible. It's necessary. You know, there is a saying which goes like that: the best time to plant a tree it's 20 years ago, of course. But if you miss that moment, the second best time it's now. So I think. Awareness of that, what we are discussing, is getting more and more obvious, not only among us common citizens, policymakers, also in the business sector. Many of them are seeing all those things developing, and many do know that future development, economic opportunities actually lie in understanding those limits I'm talking about. That in the future, in reality, if we are sincere that we want to keep, for example, industry in Europe, those things can't be ignored. And that if we want to have growth and economic development in the future, if we want to create new jobs, there will be green growth, or because no other growth will be existing. So I'm absolutely convinced that these are the things which you have to take into account, that you should not look to them as the limits of your creativity as the limits of our economic development and human development as such, but we have to understand that we are part of that nature, that we are part of global society, which is more and more interconnected, more and more interdependent than in the past, and that we simply have to behave like that.
So, Mr. Potočnik, how do you imagine the future? For conclusion.
We live in the 21st century. I would call it that a century of fragility. Why? Because, as I mentioned, we are more interconnected, more interdependent than ever. Also, a responsibility which we are carrying as individuals and also collectively is much, much higher than it was the responsibility of somebody who was living 100 years ago. So those global challenges which we are facing, from climate change to disappearing biodiversity, poverty, many others you can mention, many which are connected to use of natural resources, are simply so important that we have to act together. So I do imagine the future first in which we will understand that economy and environment are two sides of the same coin. You cannot protect environment, our health, without, in essence, addressing the issues which go to the core of our economic development. And you cannot basically talk about the future economic development and the future growth and jobs if you do not take into account the very serious issues which are connected with the fact that we are, by our activity, putting our planet out of balance. So this is connected. And this coin, which I mentioned, we should stop flipping it. I think it's utmost important that we understand that that's the reality in which we live. Because all of us living in business sector or taking care for environment, all of us should understand that me taking care for environment, I need a job. But on the other hand, the gentleman who is busy in production, who is struggling to be on the market, also that gentleman comes in the evening at home, puts the jacket off and wants to drink clear water, wants to breathe an air which is not polluted. So we are the same persons. We have the same public interest which we have to protect. That's the future to which I believe.
Thank you very much. It's very inspiring. Thank you.
Thanks.
Voilà pour cette interview et merci encore à Monsieur Potočnik de nous avoir rencontrés pour cette closing cérémonie. Première question à vous, Najwa. En effet, c'est le cœur du pouvoir exécutif européen, au Berlaymont, à Bruxelles. C'était justement les élections européennes il y a 10 jours. On parle surtout d'un manque de confiance. C'est vraiment ça, du passé du choix aux actions ?
Oui, je crois qu'aujourd'hui, pour réussir à faire en sorte que les citoyens se sentent concernés, il faut que les citoyens aient confiance en les politiques en lesquelles ils vont voter. Et aujourd'hui, on leur donnait ce droit de choisir au travers des urnes, et ils ont déserté les urnes. Il y a 2 chiffres que j'ai trouvés très inquiétants, notamment en France, c'est que 73% des moins de 35 ans ne sont pas allés voter, et quand ils sont allés voter, 30% des moins de 35 ans ont voté pour le FN. Donc je trouve ça relativement gravissime. On est en train de parler d'une population, d'une génération qui a vu, en tout cas, et en France c'est vraiment le cas, en son sol depuis les années 70, tout un tas d'enfants naître de toute origine, et on arrive encore à prôner des valeurs de repli sur soi, de crainte de l'autre, et c'est très paradoxal. On est dans une ère où le virtuel prend une place énorme, on a le web qui est quand même le nouveau monde dans lequel on vit, ça brise les barrières, on a la liberté de parole, et malgré tout, il y a une sanction. Alors c'est peut-être un vent de sanction, mais c'est un vote qui a des conséquences. Et aujourd'hui, il faut retrouver cette confiance.
Et du coup, c'est quoi ? On remet en question la parole citoyenne par le vote, c'est-à-dire demain une parole citoyenne plus collaborative, plus participative ?
Oui, je crois que le message, c'est de dire, puisqu'on ne croit plus en vous, puisqu'on n'a pas confiance en vous, et nous, on va agir autrement. Parce qu'en fait, effectivement, les citoyens désertent les urnes, mais ils n'ont pas déserté la cité. C'est-à-dire qu'on voit bien que les entrepreneurs, on en a quand même de plus en plus. Les années passent et le chiffre est de plus en plus grand. On a un tas de plateformes de crowdfunding, on parle d'open source, on parle de MOOC. C'est quand même qu'on a cette envie de collaborer avec l'autre. Donc, on n'a plus confiance en les politiques, mais on arrive encore à avoir confiance en son alter ego.
Ben justement, Rainer, vous en êtes la démonstration, avoir confiance en l'autre. Donc vous êtes à la base de Let's Do It, mais surtout des Clean Up Days. Est-ce que vous connaissez dans la salle les Clean Days? Donc voilà. C'est Rainer qui en a eu l'idée en Estonie, c'est en 2008. D'abord, racontez-nous un petit peu comment ça s'est passé. Un petit peu la jeunesse du projet, les définitions du projet.
Yes, I can do it, no problem.
Thank you.
Listen, I don't know much about politics and complicated stuff. I live on a small village in a small island, and if I'm listening to what Mr. Potočnik says, that it's important, and I had a similar responses from people in Estonia to the question that Estonia was dirty. We had a lot of illegal waste around in the forests, and it was becoming a massive problem. So I asked people a simple question: what if we clean it up? What would happen? They said, "Oh, this is impossible. We don't have that money. We don't have that many resources. It would take 60 billion years." I said, "Well, how about we do it in one day?" And suddenly what happened is that many people started to have like shiny eyes, and they said, how could we do it? I said, well, I don't know either, but wouldn't that be cool? Took us about 8 months to to build up a team and organize the mapping of all the waste in the country.
First of all, yes, you build an application, a mapping, where everybody can put where he found waste.
Yes.
That's it.
But
without that,
yes.
Did it succeed? Without that? Technical?
No, you couldn't really, but there was more to it. Actually, the first point was to find few people who would think alike and who could you trust. And I think you've been talking a lot about trust here, and honestly, this sounds like a different world to me. I've never had problems with trust, because if you speak your mind and you do what you say, it's easier. And I think this might be issue with people who perhaps they think one and talk the other. I don't know. But anyway, what we got is we made a software, and we mapped illegal waste in the country, and we asked people to come and help us clean it up. And it took 50,000 people to clean it in 5 hours.
Donc en 5 heures, c'est pas en un jour, en 5 heures, in 5 hours, en 5 heures, ils ont réussi à nettoyer un pays entier. Comment convaincre? Comment vous avez fait pour convaincre?
Could you say it in English?
How did you convince 50,000 people coming to clean? In 5 hours, the country was clean.
I don't know.
Me neither. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, the funny thing is that we couldn't get away with less people than 50,000, because there was 10,000 illegal piles in the forests, and I was pretty honest about it. I said, well, I cannot do it alone. I'd love to walk in a forest which is clean and beautiful, but we would need about 50,000 of you, and then we can do it easy. We've reached to different age groups using different people talking to their opinion leaders, and we've did a lot of communications. We've talked to companies. I've had meeting for 6 months with the people. I was thinking my own thoughts and still talking. It was quite a big effort. And every weekend for 2 days, I was running in a forest with a car, making pictures of illegal waste. It was, I was pretty gray in the face when the campaign was over. It was a hard job, but it didn't look outside. All it really mattered was on that cleanup day, people showed up to the places where the waste piles were, and they really got them bagged, sorted, and it got hauled off. And it has been beautiful since. Let me honestly tell you, it was really dirty, but right now Estonia is much cleaner than France.
And from that time, yes, I think you can applaud him. Because from that time, 16 countries did it, is to say 2 million people clean. Even Janez Potočnik in Slovenia, that's it. He did it.
Yeah, he was on a cleanup. But your data is outdated. We do
Sorry.
have 110 countries as Let's Do It teams now, and
Yeah.
as of today, we've got 9 million people participating.
Yeah, very updated.
And that's like Potočnik's case in Slovenia. We had 13.5% of population taking part in the cleanup, and in some regions it was close to 40% of people. So it's, I mean, it looks like that there are certain reasons what people think of their own, and they would really come and do the good deeds, and they're looking forward to for the things like that. And I have yet to find a passive country. I mean, we've had problems like with Albania in the beginning. They said, well, you can have a mega cleanups in maybe in other countries, but not in Albania because we don't work voluntarily. Took us 8 months. And they had a cleanup with 134,000 people. And it was the largest ever civic event there, and it's just happened. So it's probably very common, and as we all have this urgency of, feeling there's a lot of bad things going to happen, and I think it's actually exactly reversed. This is the time where we have extraordinary opportunities open for us. And we're really creating the future the way we cannot barely, have dreamt 20 years ago. It's just fantastic time. I don't see this as a threat. I think this is a marvelous opportunity, and that's cool. We're not digging in a dirt. We're creating a mega parties, celebrations. That's a different thing.
Yes, Rainer, quand on s'est écrit, vous m'avez dit, nous n'avons pas besoin de sauver la planète. Alors déjà, j'étais un peu étonnée. Ou de combattre le changement climatique. Nous avons l'opportunité d'améliorer l'existence vers un niveau plus beau, plus vert et plus propre.
Could you say it in English?
Okay, in English. You told me we don't have to save the planet. We don't have to find climate change. We have the opportunity to have better existence, more beautiful, more green, and more propre. Clean and more clean. So this is your DNA. Why is it the opportunity, and is it time now?
Well, look at the technology we've got. In the last 200 years, we've approximately made an increase in productivity about 200 times. So do we work 200 times less now? Nope. So what's the point? I mean, isn't it about the time we put those technologies into the decent use? I mean, I've heard a lot of things here today, like we need to fight for workplaces. I don't think that's true. I think what we need to do is we need to celebrate. We have the opportunity, first time in human history, to have technology do the work for us. All we need to do is we need to agree mutually. How could we actually exploit this technology? I mean, I've heard about the conference next year in Paris, the climate conference. I've been on those, and honestly, I don't think UN is the place where change is going to happen. It's not United Nations. Right now, it's United Governments. We would need United Nations to do that. And that's a different thing. We have tools now for that. We didn't have tools after the First and Second World War, but now we have tools. And I think this is the time where this global conscience is emerging, and all we need to do is set up the new rules, and we could do fantastic things.
Najwa, un niveau d'existence plus beau, plus vert, plus propre, ça vous évoque quoi?
J'ajouterais plus juste également, parce que effectivement, et d'ailleurs mon confrère le dit très bien, on a aujourd'hui une vraie capacité d'agir. Et c'est vrai que ces nouvelles technologies, elles nous permettent de reprendre le pouvoir et elles permettent de nous redonner cette liberté d'action. Donc il faut qu'on la saisisse. Je pense qu'on sous-estime la capacité de la société civile. Et tout à l'heure, Lionel Zinsou le disait également, la société civile a une vraie carte à jouer. C'est aussi pour ça que, alors moi je suis présidente du Club 21e siècle, mais il y a tout un tas d'associations qui le démontrent. Et parfois les actions sont telles qu'elles impliquent même des modifications de législation. Je pense que beaucoup se souviennent en France des enfants de Don Quichotte. C'est-à-dire que les tentes se sont plantées sur le canal Saint-Martin. Jean-Louis Borloo, à l'époque ministre, a mis en place une loi, enfin un nouveau plan d'action autour du logement social. Et je crois qu'on ne mesure pas notre capacité d'action. Si seulement toute la société civile se disait, en fait, au-delà du choix, je peux peser, moi, d'abord solitaire, mais ensuite dans le groupe solidaire, comme vous le disiez, Roxane. Alors ensemble, on a bien plus de force que chacun dans son coin, chacun avec le repli. Et à un moment donné, alors si effectivement les politiques ne le font pas, je crois qu'aujourd'hui, elles sont plutôt dans une réflexion où alors elles prônent des vertus qui peuvent être respectables, hein, qui peuvent être la sagesse, la prudence et la raison, pourquoi pas. Néanmoins, ça ne fait quand même pas bouger les choses. Donc justement, on reprend ce pouvoir et je crois qu'il est de notre devoir même, plus que de cette liberté, et c'est un devoir que l'on a de changer notre planète et d'en faire un lieu de mieux vivre ensemble et un lieu plus juste.
Avec des nouvelles valeurs sociales, un nouveau contrat moral, donc plus de solidarité, ce sera le mot de la fin. Reiner?
Yes, but there's an important aspect of how things would start to change is not a talking, is actually by doing things, because people are pretty much tired of listening what they should be done. And if you think about it, there's one person in the world who you can change, and this is the person you're looking into the mirror in the morning, and that's...
I do agree with you.
That's the
Totally.
guy. So if you change that person, you're going to be actually much more believable and trustable, because people see that you have changed. And how do you change is actually you get to do something. Say, if I'm sitting here, this might be remote, but what if I stand up and I come a little closer and I sit here? I'm like one of you. So we could have a much better conversation like this.
Change perspective.
This is how we create the communities. I actually wanted you to stand up in the beginning to have a little relax. Otherwise, you've been here for a long time, and I was a little worried about you. But I understand that there are some rules, so I didn't do that. Anyway, we need to relax a bit. The world is not that official, and this is not always about ties. And really, to create a change, we need to do it ourselves, and this is doable. Let me give you one quick example. I know we're out of time. We had a cleanup in Slovenia where we had 240,000 people taking part of it. And there were two girls from Romania watching there. They were 22 years old. And they watched how 200,000 people got mobilized. And they said, okay, we know it. We can do it. They went back to Romania. They talked to their ministers, to people. They motivated everybody. 6 months later, there was about 100,000 Romanians doing the cleanup in their country. So this is really, my message is to young people here. Don't always listen to the old ones. See, that's important. The old ones say they have life experience. But let me tell you, nobody has life experience. They are still doing it first time. So it's important that you could really be a leader. You just do what's right. Don't think about what they teach you all the time. Because teaching is something they not do always right in our society. What happens is that they want to stuff knowledge into you. But you need to use your mind, think maybe you could do different. And if you have right questions, ask the questions. Because this world doesn't work at the moment, right? You have to ask the right questions. And I think if you ask those questions, there are a lot of things you can do. And now there are tools. And we have plenty of examples like this in 110 countries, crazy guys like you and girls, especially girls. Because ladies make men work. It's a simple secret. Men don't listen, but that's true. Okay.
Thank you, Rainer. Thank you so much. One word, juste un mot, Najwa.
Je crois que Rainer a dit tout ce qu'on avait, tous les éléments importants. Simplement, effectivement, on a abordé tout un tas de thèmes pendant 2 jours. Il y a eu beaucoup d'initiations, de solutions qui ont été proposées. Simplement, moi, je crois vraiment que toutes les technologies pourront apporter un tas de choses, mais il y a une chose qui est fondamentale, c'est quand même, ça reste les valeurs humaines. Et il y en a une qui est importante, c'est la confiance qu'on a d'abord en soi. Et ça, on l'observe dans tout, on l'observe dans les parcours scolaires, dans les parcours professionnels. Et là, c'est dans notre capacité de changer les choses. Si on a confiance en nous, chacun, alors ensemble, on pourra effectivement changer les choses. On poussera en plus les politiques à se dire que si nous, société civile, mieux organisée, on arrive à changer les choses, eux devront se poser les bonnes questions.
Merci beaucoup. Je vous demande d'accueillir Hervé Bazin et George Gendelman pour le mot de la fin. Merci. Je te fais une bite si tu veux. Et Georges, est-ce qu'il est dans la salle?
Oui, il est là-bas.
Eh ben, on t'invite sur la scène.
Le baiser, c'est réservé uniquement à Georges et moi, de Roxane. Il n'y a que nous. Ça va aller très vite. Ça va aller très vite parce que c'est pas qu'on a envie de vous voir partir, ça vous le savez. Ça va aller très vite parce que les premiers sentiments et les premiers remerciements vont aller naturellement, forcément, à ceux que l'on aime. Donc on va commencer par vous tous, parce qu'il y a un peu de ça quand même. Et puis, vous savez, c'est un petit peu compliqué. Ça a été compliqué pour nous cette année. C'était compliqué parce qu'on avait envie de vous retrouver. Quand on vous a retrouvés, on s'est dit on n'a plus envie de les quitter. Et puis là, il est temps de vous quitter. Et on a encore envie de vous retrouver encore plus vite. En fait, on savait que vous nous rendriez plus forts. Et on en avait besoin. On avait besoin parce que ce fut une année compliquée. Mais ça, c'est pas très grave. Ce qui est important, et ce que nous conserverons, c'est que vous êtes venus, que vous nous avez regardés et parlé, pour ceux qui savaient, comme si de rien n'était. Ça, c'est fort. Ça, je voulais vous en remercier. Et puis, quand je dis que vous nous avez rendus plus forts, c'est parce que, en fait, on a forcément besoin de vous. Et par ordre, je vais évidemment appeler notre équipe. Alors d'abord Georges, ça c'est sûr, parce que tous les deux, on est une sorte de couple presque vieux. Bon, moi je me suis coupé les cheveux. Ça fait à peu près 4 fois que je le dis, je crois. Enfin, je le dis comme ça au micro, parce que j'ai dû le dire 100 fois, pour ceux qui ne s'en étaient pas rendus compte. Alors si vous voulez vous souvenir de ma tête à une certaine époque, vous allez sur le site des Ateliers de la Terre, et là vous vous dites, il a rajeuni. Mais si, il a rajeuni, c'est pour ça. Viens, mon vieux complice, viens là. Viens à mes côtés.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gandelman.
Viens à mes côtés parce qu'effectivement, on a eu besoin d'être ensemble. Et puis évidemment, il y a toute l'équipe. Et je veux tous vous voir, tous, toutes. Et tout à l'heure, une dame délicieuse disait qu'on aurait besoin de jeunesse. Ben écoutez, voilà la jeunesse.
Ladies and gentlemen, Planet Workshops Team, vous pouvez les applaudir.
Ils ont juste été merveilleux. Elles ont été merveilleuses. Regardez, on parle de parité. Il y a un garçon, 6 jeunes femmes. Oleg, bien sûr, 2 jeunes hommes, 6 jeunes femmes. On parle de diversité. Et merci encore, Najwa. Regardez. Oleg, américain, roumaine, de partout. Voilà. Ça, c'est un petit peu... Ce sont même beaucoup les ateliers de la Terre. Ces sortes de particules qui n'ont rien d'infime, qui sont au contraire essentielles. Essentielles à notre quotidien, essentielles à ce qu'on va faire demain, ce qu'on fera aussi demain avec vous. Alors, il y en a plein d'autres. Il y a Sonia, avec la Revue de la Terre. On n'en a pas assez parlé, évidemment.
Sonia Henry. Est-ce qu'elle est là, Sonia ?
Anne-Sophie, qui nous a beaucoup aidés. Merci Anne-Sophie. Merci Soukaya pour la presse. Et puis, voilà. Quand on dit trop merci, on ne sait plus qui on doit remercier. Donc, je crois que j'ai fait le tour. En tous les cas, on ne vous a pas oublié. Et puis, dites-vous une chose, c'est qu'on ne vous oubliera pas, en tous les cas. Merci. À bientôt.
Merci à vous toutes et tous.
Je savais très bien que j'oubliais Carlos et Gilbert.
À la technique, vous pouvez les applaudir. Et les cabines de translation aussi.
Et puis les hôtesses, qu'est-ce qui m'arrive? Mais pourquoi j'oublie les hôtesses? Voilà. Bon, puis là, c'est terminé. C'est vraiment terminé. Bon retour, en tous les cas. Merci.
Merci à vous en tout cas. Et vous pouvez maintenant vous diriger vers les bus qui vous attendent à la place du 8 mai. Merci à tous et bon retour. L'arrivée est prévue à Paris à 21h14.